Okay, people, I don't know where to begin because this whole thing is ridiculous. It's beyond stupid. In Canada, our government is displaying a disdain for intelligence and logic and has decided that we need to dismantle the economic engine that drives our economy. The engine that drives entrepreneurship and with it job creation, innovation, and export. I have to assure you, this is not about me. It definitely affects me. It destroys about 35 years of financial planning. My retirement will definitely be affected, but I'll be okay. It's about my employees and all of you out there. You have to understand, I don't consider myself a conservative. I'm not political. I've never done this kind of thing before. I'm a business owner, and I should be, I suppose, but I'm not even a small c conservative. I'd tell people I'm a failed musician turned industrialist. As a musician, you'd expect me to have liberal views, at least a little left of center, and I do. I love Canada's healthcare system. Heck, I'd be for all essentials to human life being socialized, which in this day and age includes both energy and communication. But I'm only for it if we can allow a privately owned system to run parallel to it and compete with it, and to keep the public system efficient and honest. I cannot stand government inefficiency. Private enterprise cuts through the red tape and BS and gets down to delivering efficient, high-quality services and products. It's motivated to do so, and it does. It's also motivated to make a big profit, and I'm not in favor of us being held hostage by some big multinational corporation on what I consider the essential services. My kids pay the equivalent of $5 a month for a no-limits phone, text, internet, and tethering plan in Africa. That's a price that can actually be delivered for. And energy, well, when I was in engineering in the late 70s, the James Bay Hydroelectric project was well on its way. And it is so large that it is just now partially coming online. Water generation projects usually have much too long a time frame for private enterprise to have the patience necessary for the ultimate returns on investment. They need to be owned by governments for the people. That's one of the big reasons for coal and other unclean power generation down south, because they are stuck on the free enterprise. I digress, but you know where I'm coming from. This will affect virtually everyone. Morneau tells us he's going after the 1%, but then he actually leaves them pretty much alone. This is a middle-class fleecing. The man who owns millions of shares in a publicly traded corporation is virtually unaffected, except of course that his healthcare might become substandard as the best and brightest doctors decide enough is enough and leave for the USA. But then the wealthy investor can likely afford to go to the USA and get his specialized treatment over there if he likes. No, they leave the big corporate political donors alone. My business is still considered a small business, even though it employs well over 300 people by now. It was started in the early 80s by my brother John and a friend. And right off the hop, they employed 5 people. They individually paid taxes and paid their employees, who also paid taxes, plus their business paid taxes. By now, our payroll is probably over $50,000 a day. And you can imagine the taxes that are remitted along with that, and the GST collected from the business and each of those employees each month, and the PST collected from each of those employees and the business each month, and the property taxes paid by the business and all those employees every year. And that's an important point. The taxes collected from businesses help to reduce the property taxes paid by homeowners. In our little town, I believe about 60% of the property tax revenue comes from small business. Our community of just over 10,000 has spawned over 100 new small businesses in the last 10 years. Many are in their infancy and starting out just like we did in the 80s. And they all have the potential to grow like we did. The new tax virtually guarantees that this cannot happen. You see, until now, our system was based on consumption. You consume a lot, you pay a lot of tax. You can put money into a corporation and it can stay there taxed at a slightly lower rate, but you take it out, you pay tax, and you take out a lot and you pay a high rate of tax, up to 50%, much higher than in the USA. So you're bright enough. What's the incentive here? The incentive is to leave the money in the company, where it will grow and hopefully become something of value down the road, something that you can perhaps cash in when you want to retire, or a combination of where you partially cash it in and hand over the rest of it to your kids or employees to carry on and possibly build a legacy for you and your innovative ideas and services and products that you created. The public benefit is that it grows jobs, the economy, and the tax base as a result. We've been frugal and don't allow ourselves big, fancy new company vehicles, opting for used hand-me-downs, something where we could still hold our head up but not break the bank, and leave more money to grow inside the business, the side benefit of which is creating an enormous tax base for the government. So if I die, the scenario could possibly be something like this. There's something called deemed disposition. Means that essentially the day I die, the business is deemed sold. The rules are that 25% of the value of a company must be handed in as tax right away. My will assures that what's left is handed to my estate, and my executors would need to sell the business to eventually give the proceeds to my heirs. When they sell it, 50% must be handed to the government as capital gains. The money is now in the hands of the estate, and so in the process of handing over what's left to my heirs, there could be another 20% tax levied in their hands. So that's possibly 95%. Do you think the business would survive intact? Where would the leverage come from to pay these taxes? The business would be gone or a shell of its former self, and so would the jobs and resulting long-term tax base. The question is, folks, do you want to have this tax base evaporate? Your healthcare to deteriorate? The jobs to disappear? I don't think so. It's up to you, the general public, to understand the legislation and to let them know you understand it and that you are smart enough to figure out what's going on. Smart enough to know you need to raise your voices and vehemently oppose the destruction of our economy.